what I think the witness just said. It's the California Medical Board?
I am an expert reviewer for the California Medical Board. I've never heard of it called Quality Assurance Board.
You've never heard the term BUMQA?
No.
Okay. What does the Board of Quality, or what is your medical board
California.
do? When you review, what are you reviewing?
I reviewed I review whatever they give me, cases. They ask me specific questions that I review.
For disciplinary reasons?
Yes.
Okay. Have you been asked by them to review this case?
Yes, sir.
And are you in process of reviewing this case?
No, I reviewed the case 2 years ago.
Okay. And you rendered an opinion 2 years ago?
Yes, sir.
And in reviewing that case, did you talk with Dr. Murray?
No.
Did you ask to?
No.
You went totally by the statement, the 2-hour statement that he gave to the police?
2-hour interview. I relied solely on that, his own words.
And do you think that the police asked all the questions you would have asked?
Objection, relevance, asked and answered.
Sustained.
When you were talking about the 2-minute time that would be allocated to Dr. Murray to tend to Michael Jackson before it would be an egregious violation of the standard, would that include the time that he used to give flumazenil?
Yes.
So he's got 2 minutes. What all should he have done in that 2 minutes?
Call 911. Should have tilted Mr. Jackson's head, opened his airway, used a bag mask, preferably with oxygen, and given him positive pressure resuscitation. Taking the flumazenil and giving him the flumazenil.
And then call 911 or call 911 first?
I would have called 911. Personally, I would have called 911 first.
But we have already established that you thought he should be allocated 2 minutes to assess the situation.
He's allowed. You can treat. He would still be within the standard of care.
But I want to know, in this 2 minutes, had he been authorized to do things, what should he have done in that 2 minutes? How should he have used that 2 minutes of time?
He should have gotten Mr. Jackson's oxygen up higher by giving him positive pressure. He could have intubated the patient if he had the equipment. He should have given flumazenil to reverse the sedative effect of benzodiazepines.
Would it be an error on his part to ask someone else to call 911?
It would, if there should be, as I stated before, help in medical personnel. And when someone has an arrest, I don't call 911 personally. I tell someone to call 911. That's what the basics of what we learn when someone's down. We see someone down and we call 911.
And if somebody's just not having somebody there when he's...
You do it yourself. You call 911. He has a cell phone. You can call it. He has a speakerphone too.
If it takes 2 minutes to call 911, actually 2 minutes and 43 seconds, should the time be allocated by him personally calling 911 or tending to Mr. Jackson?
He didn't have anyone to call, so he had to call.
But if he asked for help...
From who?
Security.
The time that you call for security, you could have called 911 already.
But if that takes 2 minutes and 43 seconds...
It doesn't take 2 minutes and 43 seconds. It takes literally 2 seconds to dial and say, I'm a doctor, there's an arrest, come to 100 Carrollwood now. Put him on speaker, do your stuff. They have everything recorded. They know to come immediately.
Now, you indicated that in addition to the failure to call 911, that there were problems with Dr. Murray's actions that he did do during the arrest.
Yes, sir.
Did I hear you right when you indicated that the point in time that you think that Dr. Murray found Mr. Jackson, he was asystole?
Again, no. He had a blood pressure and a pulse. So when he found him, he was not in asystole. That's what, yeah.
Didn't you testify that you thought that in this case there was a respiratory arrest?
Yes, sir.
And shortly thereafter, his heart stopped beating?
There was a respiratory arrest. His heart rate was in the 120s, and at some point, he lost a blood pressure and pulse. And then by the time EMS came, many minutes later, the gentleman was pulseless, and Dr. Murray reported when they put him on a monitor that he was in pulseless electrical activity.
Did you notice that the paramedics said that Mr. Jackson's body was cold to the touch?
I read a report that wasn't in the interview, but Dr. Murray reports that he was warm to the touch when Dr. Murray found him.
There's a difference.
So when Dr. Murray found him,
Page line?
I'm sorry. He wasn't breathing. Here. The end of 64, starting on line 23 at the end. Bedside and my clinical observation. So I immediately felt for pulse, and I was able to get a thready pulse in the femoral area. His body was warm. There was no change in color. I assumed everything happened very quickly.
But the fireman or the paramedic said he was cold to the touch.
Absolutely, yes. So this was at 12, and the fireman got there 26 minutes later.
And would he cool off in 26 minutes?
Yes. He had no blood pressure, no pulse. You get cold.
Okay. And you would agree with the fireman's assessment when they say he's been dead for 20 or 30 minutes?
No. I would say that you cannot make that assessment.
So in essence, had Dr. Murray called 911 at 12 o'clock, Michael Jackson would still be here today.
Yes, sir.
And there's just no doubt in your mind about that.
No doubt.
And that's based upon the fact that if they arrived by, say, 12:05 and started doing what would you expect them to do to rectify this situation?
They would intubate Mr. Jackson, put him on a respiratory machine, put him on a monitor, and get oxygen into him. And likely he would have just recovered. And maybe give him medication, if his blood pressure was still low, give him some medications to increase his blood pressure.
And so, had they been able to accomplish that by 12:10, he'd be okay.
Yes, because what happened is that at 12:12, he had called Michael Amir, and then he came back, and at that point he lost his pulse. So if they would have found him, let's say, between 12:05 and 12:10, he would have still had a pulse. They would have probably been able to save him.
Now, you're relying upon an emergency assessment made by Dr. Murray
Yes, sir.
and time estimates made by Dr. Murray and other witnesses in this case, aren't you?
I'm basing it on his words.
Okay, and if he's mistaken in terms of his estimates, you could be mistaken in your assessment, couldn't you?
Relevant.
I'm sustaining objection to the characterization that the witness would be mistaken.
Do you hold Dr. Murray to the same ability to estimate time and situation in an emergency situation as you would a person in a non-emergency situation?
Yes.
If his estimates of time are off, would you consider that an egregious violation of the standard of care?
If his times are off, no. If his times are off, but the he says he says what he says, that there was a significant delay between, he went downstairs and calling 911. He called Michael Amir Williams instead of calling 911. There's clear evidence that there was a significant delay in calling 911. So I'm unclear of your question.
So just based upon the fact that Dr. Murray discovers his patient not breathing at 12 o'clock and does not seek help in terms of security till 12:05, based upon that fact alone, you think that he's responsible for the death of Michael Jackson?
Well, there's a lot of things that I found again. I mean, he should never have given propofol in the first place. He didn't have the guy monitored. He wasn't ready for an emergency. Didn't have an emergency plan. He didn't respond to the arrest in an appropriate manner. He delayed calling 911 even after talking to Dr. Amir. And if you put all those together,
Mr. Amir.
Mr. Amir, yes, he's responsible.
But this one individual deviation causes him to be responsible in your eyes.
Yes.
Okay, and the other deviation that he didn't have was it's a backup battery in
Yes,
case,
sir.
in case the other devices fail or electricity. There's a power shortage.
Yeah.
He should have anticipated a power shortage.
We live in Southern California. It happened in San Diego and it happened in Ventura. Every hospital and center has a backup system in case the electricity goes out and you're in the middle of your colonoscopy. You're at grave danger.
And not having backup power is an egregious violation?
Yes, it is.
The backboard he was supposed to have. Is not having a backboard an egregious violation?